Welcome to Hashtag Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation, welcome to the return of, I don't know, what are you sending me, Clayton? This is ridiculous. All right, welcome to the return of the Roundtable minus Joe Sharp of Believers Talk, but make sure you go over to his channel and give him a follow. We're going to be discussing a few things going on with the Buffalo Bills. We're going to preview the the Buffalo Bills versus New England Patriots, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the trade deadline. Who do you want? Who do you think the Bills could get? And what is going on with some of these things? But I can't do it alone. I have these two esteemed colleagues to help me out. First, the young buck, the prodigy, the man, the myth, the legend from the Cold Front Report, Clayton Garrett. Clayton, I know two words what I could say to Clayton that will trigger him, and that's AJ Klein. Clayton, how you doing today?
Why do we got to bring him up? Like, we're probably not even 120 seconds into the show, Mario. We got to bring up AJ Klein.
That's, you know what? I loved getting you fired up bright and early, so that the Clayton rant is going to be coming. We have some usual suspects in. We got Ultimate Guitar Wizard Mike Trotter, Daniel Garvey's Apex, PJ, and 585 Army. But before I get to them, ladies and gentlemen, my other co-host for tonight, the real Dan Mitchell. And what I could do to, one thing that I could say to Dan to trigger him would be, as per PFF.
Oh, God.
Dan, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Oh, dude, I'm doing fantastic. Once again, I always look forward right to these Buffalo Bills roundtables. I feel like we have a lot to discuss today. I know that you're very excited, right, to bring up this one specific topic, but I'm sure we'll get there eventually.
Oh, we're definitely gonna get there. That's a slow crawl for tonight, but
for sure.
You know, Paul's not here. Paul is tending to his cold. He's a little bit under the weather, so I gotta take care of things tonight. Thank you everybody in the chat for chiming in. 31 viewers, 7 likes. You know we don't like that stuff. Hit the smash that like button so we can go out to
smash it
everywhere. So, gentlemen. First and foremost, the Buffalo Bills are 3-0 in the division. They're 5-2 overall with an 18-10 victory over the New York Jets. Dan, you always do your grades. I hate to play spoiler. I always want to tell people to go over to your channel and watch and what grades you gave everyone. But if you had to give, a number 1 through 10 for the Buffalo Bills' performance against the Jets, what would you give?
And so in total, I would have to give them a 6. Would have to give them a 6. You know what I mean? Honestly. And so I am in the camp of not being like, oh, the sky is falling. The Buffalo Bills barely beat the New York Jets. There were a lot of things that I liked about that game, and there were several things that I ended up hating about that game specifically. And feel free to chime in, guys. But really at the end of the day, first off, there's a few things that come to mind. Number one, this was a divisional game. And when it comes to divisional opponents, they typically can put together better game plans than once you face off to opponents that are not facing you on a regular basis throughout the season. And then number two, I have a feeling that the Buffalo Bills' number one concern and number one goal going into that game was to leave with a W, but also to leave without being injured. That's why I'm fine with the Buffalo Bills only putting up just a mere of the 18 points going into it, because I feel like our game strategy going into it was to play conservative, because we didn't need to put up 40 points to beat the Jets. Let's put it this way. We all know how terrible that turf is at MetLife, and seeing how banged up the Buffalo Bills have been the past couple of weeks, don't be surprised if that's exactly what Sean McDermott wanted to make happen going into that game. This game is not concerning me whatsoever. I'm not thinking that the sky is falling. I'm not thinking that the Bills are regressing. I think we're going to pick it back up. But really, at the end of the day, we went in there right on a conservative standpoint, and we ended up coming out right with the W, and things are looking up.
Clayton, over to you. 1 out of 10 for the Buffalo Bills' performance against the New York Jets.
I'm right there with Dan with the 6. But I really can't give the optimistic spin on it, because I've kind of been sitting at a 6 with certain things with this football team for a couple of weeks now. So it's not a matter of they proved me wrong in this football game and made me feel a lot better of who they are as a football team after these last 2 games where they lost. That didn't really happen. It was more so some of the same, some different, a lot of the same though. It was a lot. There was a lot in this game. I was right there with you, Dan. After I watched this game, I was miserable. I was frustrated. I was nowhere near as happy as you should be after the Bills win, because it honestly didn't feel like they did. Because you watch 6 field goals in this game with over 400 yards of offense. My goodness. Like what did you do wrong to fall forward like that? You get 400 yards of offense and you cut through this defense up and down the field between the 20s and you don't punch it in once. And it's just that was extremely deflating for me about this offense, because, you know, I understand we can say, oh, they look good, and Josh Allen had over 360 total yards. I'll be the first one to say Josh Allen had a good game, but I wasn't really overly impressed with the overall game plan going into this game. I wasn't overly impressed with the adjustments in this game, and I feel like that is probably one of the more common themes of the Bills in the last season and a half. And I don't know. I still have a lot to see that I need to feel, or I still need to see a lot in order to feel supremely confident in this team, which I believe they have the talent for possibly a Super Bowl contender on this football team. That's really how I felt since the start of the year. But they still have a lot to prove, and the good thing is there's a whole lot. Well, there's half a season left to prove yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't know, it'd be tough for me because I obviously you have 0 punts in the game, as mentioned in the chat. You go 6 for 8 on field goals. Obviously, Bass had his work. He got his workout in on Sunday. But you do put up 400 yards of total offense. You expect some of those drives to end up in the end zone. You know, people were mentioning Tyler Kroft falling down, Gabriel Davis touchdown callback, and I understand those things. But you're talking about a New York Jets team that over the 20 quarters where they haven't played the Buffalo Bills, they've surrendered touchdowns in 14 of those quarters. The Buffalo Bills went a game and a half not scoring a touchdown against the Jets ever since 6:48 left in the second quarter of the first game. And that's the initial thing that triggered me about it. But then when I watched the tape back again, I started to see, you know what, there were some guys that were coming open. There were some guys that Allen could have hit, and there's some things, the plays that were left on the field. And plays that weren't left on the field, you talk about in the first 2, 3, 4 weeks of the season for Josh Allen and this offense. So defense obviously still kind of a problem. I would have went with a 5 or 4 or 5 of this game, because of the sheer numbers of the amount of talent you have, albeit it's banged up. But you should have rolled the Jets. I believe the Jets had a minor fire sale before the game. Bell's not there. They got a couple of defensive tackles aren't there anymore, and you got Sam Darnold, who's working with nothing out there. He's got a 75-year-old Frank Gore in the backfield starting. And he was able to, churn up 60 yards on 11 carries. And then Pirine, whatever the hell his name is, he was able to do a little bit of work on the outside, and that seemed to be the thing. And I think the Bills got caught off guard a little bit early in the game because new play caller, Gase, decided to delegate play calling to someone else. So therefore, you started to see, the lack of adjustments. But then the Bills defense adjusted in the second half, only giving up 4 yards in the second half. And that's just absolutely amazing. That's the kind of defense that you want to see out of the Buffalo Bills. And that's what we expected at the beginning of the year, which we really haven't seen very much of. But, we're going to move on. Before we get to the New England Patriots, though, I think I have a little bit of stuff to say to these two gentlemen about another name that would trigger Clayton, and that's Trent Murphy. And he's been a hot topic for a couple of years now. People are talking about him. Teams are in discussions with Trent Murphy. And the thing about Trent Murphy is, number one, if you trade him with anyone, for another player, it's just going to be a salary dump for a salary dump. So you have to really look at what Trent Murphy brings to your team, especially a team that's going to be acquiring Trent Murphy is only going to get like a half a year rental out of the guy, and there's going to be no guarantee that he's going to sign with that team the next year, plus his salary as well. So it's going to be for a player that has comparable numbers as far as their salary goes, because we have to realize the NFL is a business, and the Buffalo Bills, it's a business. So they have to realize, what are we getting in return for this? Will the guy that's coming in be a guy that could make more of an impact than currently Trent Murphy is, who's been in this defense for X number of years now? So, but simply going at the numbers, and that's what happens. And I have to credit Paul to this. We had a discussion today. Paul was actually the ringleader about this, but I just want to throw some numbers at you guys. And I'm going to say this, and this may not age well, okay? Trent Murphy is untradeable. I'm gonna wait for the chat to start tearing me apart. Now,
Interesting.
He's well, first of all, let me just say this to the chat. Because of the new wording of the CBA, if you cut Trent Murphy, he's a vested veteran. His salary's already guaranteed. You gain nothing by cutting him. So he costs the same to your team whether he's on it or he's off of it. That's number one. You can't cut him. All right? Ain't happening. Number two. I mean, I used to think it couldn't happen, but then the whole Quentin Spain thing happened. That was kind of crazy. But here's the number two thing. If you look at by the numbers, if they'd have done this prior to June 1st or just after June 1st, it's a different discussion we're having right now as far as his salary. We are 7 games into the season. I know you hate me, PJ, and I apologize. But this is strictly from a number standpoint. If you're the Buffalo Bills and you're a business and you have to make business decisions with your salary cap, here's some of the things that have to go on. His current base salary is $6.425 million. Okay, that's what he has currently. He has if you look at overthecap.com, it could be a little bit misleading because it says his number is $9,775,000. I don't want to lose you guys with these numbers, so I'll just try to do this quick. He's got a 2.25 dead money hit. So everyone's like, hey, you saved $7 million if you cut Trent Murphy. 7 games into the season. Remember, it's a prorated salary structure. There's 17 payments in the NFL. So up until this point, Trent Murphy has made $377,000 a game for $2.645 million. Now that old little $2.25 million that he had is that's all only dead money you're going to take on the chin. That sack he had last year, which got him his incentive bonus, the $1 million. Half of that gets put on this year. Half of it was last year, half of it's this year's cap. So therefore, that $500,000 gets put on this year's cap. So you have to factor in the now it's 2.75 in dead money. You factor the 2.6 that you already paid him for the games that he played, the 2.75 that it's going to be dead money bomb when you trade him, not cut, trade. That's $5.4 million. Okay, now subtract that from his 9.7 and you get $4.4 million you save by trading Trent Murphy. 4.4. You know what? That would have been a little bit better to take on the chin if you didn't take another $4.8 million money bomb from Quentin Spain. So the Buffalo Bills, and another thing that's pretty crazy, that Galleries, his dead money is $8,775 if you cut him, because that's the guaranteed money. That's not for a trade. That's for a cut. Sorry, PJ. But here's the thing that's been going on with the Buffalo Bills, and as far as the practice squad and everything that's going on, and I need to bring this up to your attention. The Buffalo Bills currently have 51 players accounting for dead cap on their roster. You know how that happens? When you call a guy up from the practice squad, if he plays more than 2 games and you put him on your roster, you end up taking a dead money bomb. Case in point, Dane Jackson. If you want Dane Jackson to play for you, what happened? He was a 7th-round pick. He had guaranteed money built into his contract. What the Bills did was they waived him at the beginning of the year. Okay? They took a dead money hit from him. They put him on his practice. They put him on their practice squad. Practice squad players do not count against the cap. If you want to bring him up, you have to sign him to bring him up. Okay? You have to sign him. If you sign him for more than 2 games, you have to actually give him a contract. Case in point, Zimmer. They had to give him a contract. So that all being intertwined in there are guys that you're going to see on Spot Track that have multiple names on there for dead money. It's because they keep going back and forth to the practice squad. And guys that you cut or you waive and you put on the practice squad that you drafted account for dead money as well. So the Buffalo Bills have been nickel and diming themselves with dead money this whole year. And it hasn't been favorable for them. So this is why you look at Quentin Spain, you look at currently with Trent Murphy as far as if you have to trade him, it's a $4.4 million dead money bomb that goes off. The Bills can't keep nickel and diming themselves on this. And I will apologize to the chat. I will apologize to these 2 esteemed colleagues because right now I'm going to say Trent Murphy is untradeable. He has to be on your team. He's more valuable on your team, believe it or not, right now. So Clayton, talk to me, man.
I don't want to say you're right, dude. I really don't. I don't. Because I don't think you should just cut Trent Murphy. Obviously, you said that it's not necessarily unfeasible, but it's just there's simply no benefit. It's counterproductive to cut Trent Murphy because if he's on your football team and he can contribute, however he does that, that is worth something versus you just biting money to bite money and cutting a player to cut a player. Now, in terms of a trade, which is far more feasible after the description you just gave us. It's far more feasible. I'm not sure how practical it is, though, because while it is financially practical, while it would make sense for it to happen on both the business side as well as the personnel side, it just I don't see a team out there trading for Trent Murphy as a one-year rental. Maybe in exchange for a player, so it's money for money. I could definitely see that, maybe. But if you're asking me, is there anybody really in this league that'll take Trent Murphy with that contract? And I understand it's only going to cost them, what, 4.4, correct?
That's with his. They have to pay the rest of his base salary, which would probably be about. You take the bonuses off of it, 2.6, 6.4. They're probably going to pay him 3 and change.
Okay, so that's not all right. Now that you say that, that's not bad for a veteran defensive end versus his current cap number on the Buffalo Bills, because it's not like with the description you just gave. It's not just copy and paste. They take the contract in its entirety. It's not that sort of situation.
Nope.
So, with that being said, I could see a way in which it is feasible. I could see a way in which you could possibly find a trade suitor in a situation where you're exchanging, hey, we want this guy, you take this guy, and maybe we'll give you a draft pick, or we exchange a 6th for a 7th or something like that. So maybe a trade is feasible at this point, but you seem pretty confident that he's not going anywhere.
I just think of it from a business standpoint. The guy's been on your team. The guy is also, let's just talk about on the field stuff. Now people don't like what he does, and I understand that. He's not that guy that's going to fly off the corner and get 15 sacks for you. I understand that. He is a typical McDermott D end. He's gonna have his lunch pail and his hard hat. He's gonna set the edge for you. He's struggling this year. However, that's the guy that McDermott covets. Now I don't know what it's like behind the scenes in the locker room, but that's on the field. That's what he does.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong in anything that you just said. You're 110% correct. But with that being said, after A.J. Epinesa is coming off of his best game as a pro, after having just 16 snaps in comparison to Trent Murphy's 42, do you think it's a time where if you end up moving on from Trent Murphy and say you trade him to New Orleans in exchange in some sort of package for Sheldon Rankin, say you do that, that's the move. Are you comfortable with A.J. Epinesa taking more those snaps versus Trent Murphy?
I think the Buffalo Bills feel in that way because they drafted the guy in the 2nd round. They thought they stole him. So he seemed like they were always drafting the next guy up. You know, everyone wanted to say that Harrison Phillips was going to be the next Kyle Williams, and then A.J. Epinesa was going to be the bookend on the other side of Hughes or whoever was going to be over there. And I didn't really get that. I didn't think that was Epinesa's game. He has been steadily improving as he's been playing, and that could have been. I don't know. It could have been. I don't see the direction this team really wants to go with certain moves that they've been making. Dan, both on Trent Murphy and the cutting of Quinton Spain, I would have said if they didn't cut Spain, this could be a feasible move for a player for Trent Murphy. But they can't cut him because his salary is going to be fully guaranteed. What is your take on if Trent Murphy's on this team for the rest of the year?
And, well, I think this is a very interesting conversation, especially going with the fact that, say, for example, that the whole of the Quinton Spain situation did not happen, then yes, 110%. I am all for moving on from Trent Murphy. But unfortunately, a lot of things happened that most Buffalo Bills fans were not expecting. I mean, we just ended up extending Spain during the offseason. And then for some reason, he must have had some type of issues within the locker room, or he asked for a trade, or he asked to be released. And then that sort of made our entire cap space more of a clusterfuck, rather. So I'm going to have to side with Mario at this point, saying that legitimately moving on from him would not make financial sense. And I know a lot of people hate Trent Murphy, but in my opinion, the guy, he does his job. Now, granted, he's hot and cold. He's like a Fitzpatrick for a defensive end, right? He's either Fitzmagic or Fitztragic. It really depends on what game you're going to see. I don't think it's really going to make a lot of sense to move on from him, especially since at the end of the day, and so legit, like I can scroll through Bill's Twitter and I could see a bunch of sort of hypotheticals of which player that we should be able to go for and how we can bring somebody else on right within the Buffalo Bills. But like, I mean, like we need to understand, we just don't have the money at this point. We really don't. If the Buffalo Bills make any move, whatsoever before the trade deadline, first off, that's not in Bean's DNA. right throughout like his first 3 years here, maybe minus the Kelvin Benjamin move his first year while he was here, he's not going to make a splash play. If we're expecting any new player coming onto this roster, it's going to be like a second or third string depth move. And unfortunately, like Clayton was also saying, not many people are going to want to take on Trent Murphy's contract. So moving on from Trent Murphy is just not realistic at this point. And as far as bringing somebody else on to our roster, don't get too excited for a splash move because, frankly, we don't have the financials to make that happen.
If you look at it, Daniel Garvey's actually put in, and I'll get right to you, Clayton. So Daniel Garvey's put in there, said there are reports that Murphy was discussed in trade talks. Yeah, the thing that I wanted to get across in my point, I said he's untradeable because I don't know of a team that would take an almost 30-year-old defensive end for a 1 year, half-year rental. It's going to be, because the consensus of a lot of Bills fans that I've talked to is like, what? Why don't they cut Murphy? They saved $7 million. And the whole point for the numbers and the rant that I had was that if they could trade him, and these guys have echoed it, Dan and Clayton have echoed it, if they trade him, they're going to get a guy of a similar contract back that they're not going to save any money. So you're going to get a guy that's going to be coming into this defense brand new, having to learn it, and then you're not going to save really any money in the process. So that's the kind of point of it that I wanted to give. Could he get traded? Yes. Okay, I was being silly. But the thing is, they're not going to save a bunch of money so they could put it on a big splash free agent like Dan said.
I gotta disagree with both of you. Because Mario, you and I were talking about this separately earlier today, and I was of the previous belief, like I mentioned, that it's going to cost the team a little bit more money to take on Trent Murphy, and I would agree. Yeah, he is untradeable. And then you kind of alluded to your point of what you brought onto the show tonight, and I kind of figured it was along those lines, like the contract. Nobody's going to want that, and I understand. There's not many football teams out there that say, "Oh, we're a Trent Murphy away from being this or that." Like, there's nobody out there that's going to say that. But there are teams out there that aren't happy with maybe a certain personnel player. Maybe they're in their own Trent Murphy situation where, they got this guy, he's in a contract year, and maybe they just want to get something in return for him. And then maybe they call Buffalo. And when talking about Trent Murphy, dealing him for a similar contract, making it almost lateral for your cap, where you don't gain any, but you don't lose any, because that could be a big problem for the Bills too, because of how low their cap space is at this moment. So if they could possibly make a lateral move where they don't open up any cap space, but they don't lose any, I think that's the biggest key for them right now. And honestly, I'm really kind of seeing a situation where you see Trent Murphy move and the Bills possibly give up their fifth and in exchange for like a seventh or something of those sorts. The more we talk about it, the more I could possibly see a move. If it were to happen, that's the move that would happen, I believe.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Atlanta and New Orleans as far as moves go, but as far as New Orleans goes, they're in cap purgatory. I mean, they really can't do anything right now, and it would be a guaranteed half-a-year rental for them. And you talk about Atlanta, who also, like, their top 5 contracts make up like 70% of their cap, and it's absolutely insane. But like, let's say, let's move on though. I mean, because like, honestly, we've all said our piece about the Trent Murphy thing. It's always it's an almost beat to death. I went on a mini rant, and I apologize for that to the chat, but it was just something that Paul and I had talked about earlier, and I thought was so fascinating, the numbers aspect of it, because you got to realize a lot of these decisions that are made aren't just purely what's going on the field, and a lot of that stuff becomes the business aspect of it, and that has to be taken into account. And there are times where the business aspect is thrown out the window as far as Quentin Spain goes, and it's mainly for your team. And I still don't know what's going on with the whole Quentin Spain, but that's a topic for another day. But I do want to discuss these gentlemen's take. And before I get to that, I just wanted to say we're starting something new at Hashtag Sports here. We mentioned it on the post game. We were saying that prior to tonight, all of the memberships of the Hashtag Heroes, if you became a channel member, 50% of your proceeds were going to be going to the Punt Foundation. From now until the end of the year, we are now kicking that up to 100% of all channel memberships are going to be going to the Punt Foundation. You guys have been amazing with that. We can't thank you enough. The Punt Foundation can't thank you enough, so keep that up. If you want to be a channel member, it's right below. But I want to get to New England versus Buffalo. The 2-4 New England Patriots versus the 5-2 division-leading Buffalo Bills. Truth to hearts, are we still going 9-7? Absolutely, until they don't. So Dan, I want to go and bring it up to you. Initial take, initial thoughts. What do the Bills need to do to defeat the New England Patriots on Sunday?
Wow, man. So let's not let the record fool you. And so this game is still going to be a lot closer than a lot of people are anticipating. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing, like right in the interior as myself, as a Bills fan, there's nothing more than I would like to see for us to make Cam Newton cry, watch Bill Belichick just hang up his cleats and retire after the ass whooping that we would put on them on Sunday. But unfortunately, it is not going to happen. Say that I had to give like a final score prediction, I would say it's going to be 21-20. It's going to be a nail biter. It's just how it is. It's how these division games are really playing out, right? So one thing that really gets me excited about this game is the fact that the New England Patriots offensive line, all of their starters are listed as questionable right at this point. All of them are listed at right as questionable. So say that they were all healthy. The number one thing that would concern me is the fact that they are currently fourth in the NFL for rush yards per game. They're putting up an average of 155 per game. And then you like put that against our rush defense, who there's not many people who can argue that the Buffalo Bills have a very difficult time stopping the run. I mean, fucking Frank Gore looked like a damn Pro Bowler last Sunday. So, I mean, imagine like what like their committee of damn 17 running backs are going to do to us on Sunday. But I really think that this is going to be interesting when you combine the fact that not only are the New England Patriots offensive line hurting significantly, you're also pairing that with a quarterback who ended up getting pulled right against the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday, who is significantly struggling. I'm pretty sure he had like 5 interceptions in the past 2 games. So that can go either way, right? He can either continue spiraling down the drain, or he can be so pissed off that he has a very good game and he uses his mobility and he can take advantage of our weak rush defense. So as far as it works out from that perspective, I think that our defense is going to have its work cut out from them being able to stop the rush attack, because frankly, that is the only way that they are going to be able to beat us, is as if they can continue to run the ball. Because realistically, and so you have like a 79-year-old Julian Edelman and you have a N'Keal Harry who can't fucking run a route to save his damn life. I'm not worried about their pass attack. I am worried about the way that they do run the ball. As far as the Buffalo Bills offense right against the New England Patriots defense, I mean, we all understand that while they've still been decent, like middle of the pack when it comes to stopping the pass by itself, they also struggle at stopping the run. Now, if the Bills weren't, struggling running the damn ball, which I certainly wish that they could, then what I would say the game plan is to utilize Allen's mobility, and then please, for the love of God, let's unleash our run game with Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. So this game is going to be a defensive battle, like right in my opinion. I think that the game is going to come down to which defense can actually take the ball away more often, and that's what's going to happen with this one. I'm confident that we can go 6-2. I really want us to go 6-2, because say that happens, we essentially win the division. Essentially, because we're 4 losses up, like right in the column by itself. I really believe that the Miami Dolphins are about to drop their next 3, especially against the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Chargers. And the Patriots would legitimately need to run the table and just win out for the rest of the season, maybe one more loss for it to happen. So this game is a must win. I think it can happen, but it's going to be a challenge.
Run. What is it? What is the phrase, Dan?
Run the damn ball.
There you go, PJ. There you go. So they got to run the ball, and they need to stop the run. And the run will be, okay. All right. Luis Matos comes in to score 20-17 Buffalo Bills. Clayton. Yeah, we're going to be Saturday on the Cold Front Report. I will be there with Clayton and Mookie, and some chaos and mayhem will be unleashed. But prior to that, I'm very interested to hear your take on Buffalo Bills versus New England Patriots.
This is really looking at this game, I'm not looking at the Patriots the same way I have forever. I really am not, because you're talking about, I'm not going to say it's a completely different football team, but it is a different football team. You're looking at a defense that has multiple starters not playing, whether they opted out or whether they are hurt. They're missing a lot of pieces on that defense. Julian Edelman is simply not the same player he was when he had Tom Brady in town. N'Keal Harry isn't the player people had expected him to be, given the fact of lack of surrounding talent aside from just Julian Edelman. And this offensive line, while they are the third best rush offense in the league, they're also probably the worst offensive line that they've had in a long time. And do you get away with that because you have a quarterback with more mobility than Cam Newton? Slightly, yes. But the way I see the defensive approach going in this game against Cam Newton, think about it. Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane were in Carolina throughout the process of making Cam Newton the number one drafted player in, what was it, 2011 or 2000? Yeah, it was 2011 or 2010, I forget.
Yes, I believe.
It was 11, I believe.
It was the Darius draft, so it was 2011 or 2010.
I'll check that out.
Because well, correct me if needed be, but they made him the first overall pick. They know his tendencies. They know his deficiencies. They know what he's good at. They know how to get to Cam Newton. If it's one thing Sean McDermott has always been good at as a defensive coach, ever since he's taken the reins in Buffalo specifically, the only mobile quarterback that I've ever seen have an overly successful day against Sean McDermott, you can't even really call it an overly successful day compared to his other games, is Patrick Mahomes. And that just happened a couple weeks ago. So I'm not really in the favor of, I believe Cam Newton is a solid player still. I'm not going to sit here and say he's washed up. COVID-19 certainly has something to do with why he has played as bad as he has, I believe. And, I don't like saying that as an excuse, but he is a human being, and I don't think any of us are going to go to work the next day if we are recovering from COVID-19, let alone go out and be professional athletes. So let's not get on the whole don't make excuses train. I'm not really about that. But the thing is with Cam Newton is I feel like Sean McDermott in this defense, I think they're gonna have a plan against Cam Newton. I feel very confident in this defense. Honestly, I feel more confident in this defense than I have going into any game since you really haven't seen the identity of the defense have what it was previously. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, I agree with Dan 110% in the matter of the fact that you need to run the ball. I saw no reason to have Josh throwing the ball 41 times last week. What made Josh Allen throw the ball 41 times last week? Was it because you ran 2 plays to the edge and consecutively, and then the third time you tried to do it, the defensive line slanted in and bench pressed your practice squad offensive guard into Devin Singletary's lap? Is that what happened? And you got so scared that you just decided to not run the ball anymore in a game that you're winning, that you're competing in? It's not a game where you're down by multiple possessions trying to throw yourself out of a hole. That's not what it was. You could have ran that damn ball the whole game, and you simply chose not to because, I don't know, you can say it's the offensive line, but there's ways to get around poor interior offensive line play. And if you're an offensive coordinator in the NFL, you should know how to do that. But the point is, if there's any game that the Bills want to light the fire under their rushing attack, it'd be this one. You're going up against the 27th ranked rush defense in the league.
Yeah. And so they're worse than us.
They're worse than
us.
us.
They're worse than us, which is insane.
It's oh my goodness. But there's a difference between what I think they should do and what they're going to do. Because I feel like every time every time I sit on a podcast, I sit on a show and I talk about the Bills going up against a bad run defense. And it's not just this year, it's last year. It's ever since we really started having this conversation about Brian Daboll as an offensive coordinator and his scheming and his planning and his overall game plan and what he wants the identity to be. Obviously, the identity of this offense is to be a vertical passing offense. But obviously, it hasn't worked fairly well these last couple of weeks. I understand Josh Allen threw for 300 yards, this, that, the third. But your lack of existing in the running game is why you couldn't punch it in the end zone last week, I believe. That's why you went 0 for 5, because you're one-dimensional at that point, and you're 2 yards away from the goal line. It's just it's frustrating to me. And you go into this go ahead, I'm sorry.
And so, I mean, let me ask you guys this, because I'm, super curious. John Feliciano, Big Sexy, is off the IR. He's set to start. Now tell me, was he the missing ingredients for the Buffalo Bills to get that run game back on point, baby?
Do you want me to be nice or do you want me to be honest?
I want you to be real.
You cut your best offensive guard. You cut your best. I don't even know if you could say you didn't even cut your best interior offensive lineman, and that includes Mitch Morse. And I understand that might sound like an exaggeration, but it's not. Quentin Spain didn't give up a single sack last year. He didn't. And everybody always wanted to say, oh, he benefits from being next to Dawkins and Morse. Well, to be quite honest with you, Dawkins isn't as good as everybody cooks him up to be. He really isn't. They paid this guy they extended him to be a passable left tackle, so you don't have a gaping hole at one of the most important positions in football. That's what they did. And do I think it's smart? Yes. You locked up a left tackle. That's what you did. You got yourself a guy who's not elite, but he's a damn good football player. But he's not elite. So he does have deficiencies. So I'm not really for the whole Quentin Spain benefited from being next to Dawkins and Morris, because I just watched Mitch Morris have his ass handed to him by a second-year player last week for the 4th time in every game that they've met. And really the missing ingredient on that offensive line is that for some reason, you're just forcing Cody Ford in the lineup. That's really why the offensive line hasn't looked what it is. I understand he was hurt last week. He had Ike Bachner as replacement. But if you didn't cut Quentin Spain, you think Bucker's out there? You think that's what's happening? You shouldn't have moved on from Quentin Spain. I believe John Feliciano is going to improve this offensive line ultimately, but your missing ingredient is your guy that you gave $15 million.
Is your best fucking guard. Is your best fucking guard. Interesting. Interesting.
I typed in the chat, PJ, here it comes, because I thought the rant was coming. I love it. What center can handle Quentin Williams alone, Clayton? Daniel Garvey's comes in and asks that. Not a lot of people can handle him. He is, but you're the highest paid center in the NFL for a reason, because they feel you can handle guys like that, and you get tossed around like a rag doll. It's no bueno.
It's not even close. They're not competing. He's getting his ass handed to him. Like, that's what's happened. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize, Clayton. This is what the show's about, man.
And so, Mario, what's your take on the Feliciano thing? Will this improve our run game, or will it not?
Mongo like Sheriff Bart. That's a little Blazing Saddles for everyone that's over 30 in here. But I love that Mongo's back. But I'm not 100% convinced of... I mean, the guy... he had an injury that isn't really... it wasn't like he had... it wasn't like it was his ankle or his knee or his hip flexor. So you got to do this. Clayton knows it. You got to do this. Okay, that's a big deal in his injury and everything. So I like the fact that he's back. I think he'll give a spark. He's definitely a guy on your team that I would have called just for my fandom. He was the best guard on the team. Technically, Spain was the best guard on the team, so Feliciano was the second best. But I digress. The point being is this: I'm a big fan of Mongo coming back, and I think he's gonna make an impact. I don't know how big of an impact he's gonna make. But Dan and Clayton, you brought up some excellent points. I love the fact that a lot of people really aren't talking about. This is Cam Newton. Okay, this is somebody that McDermott got to see at practice. Bean got to see at practice every single day. You got to look at this guy's study habits. You got to look at this guy, how he works. You got to look at this guy, what his tendencies are. What are some things that he likes? What are some things that he doesn't like? And believe me, there's only one guy on this earth probably knows more about Cam Newton than McDermott. And the only guy I would bet would be Belichick, because he had to break it down for him. He had to break it down. There had to be a reason he had to bring him into New England. And to Clayton's point, maybe it was because this line, Dante Scarnecchia, he retires in the offseason, longtime offensive line coach who worked wonders with the offensive line. He's retired. He's not in there anymore. You need help for this line. Thuney's like you got a lot of the guys that are back, but Thuney, was kind of iffy for a while if he was going to come back. He signed his franchise tag. Guys don't like playing on franchise tags, and it's never fun for them. So who knows how this offensive line is going to perform for the New England Patriots, but they have been performing pretty well. I immediately went to two things, because as soon as we start talking about comparisons of what's going on with this team, I immediately went to my bold predictions, and I'm going to repeat on the tailgate, but I want to give you guys a teaser for it right now. I have a bold prediction that in this game, the Buffalo Bills, with Mongo back, whoever's playing left guard, I don't care at this point. I really don't care. Just don't get thrown around like a rag doll. The Buffalo Bills will outrush the New England Patriots in this game. I know that everyone's talking about them throwing 41 times. They're a passing offense. They do all this stuff. They throw the ball The only team that throws the ball higher percentage of their plays is the Seattle Seahawks. I understand that, but you zigged when you should have zagged on that one. Is the philosophy that Belichick always implores when he plays games like this. You know what I mean? So I think that the Buffalo Bills will probably go back at him and give him a taste of their own medicine because they realize a lot of the experience on that New England team is in the back end, not on the front line. So they probably feel that they have a better chance at trying to actually run the ball for the first time all year to take down a division opponent. And then the next time they end up playing him, it's going to be something where they're like, whoa, I thought that, they ran the ball 42 times against us last game, and we thought that they were going to run again, and they didn't run, and they did X, Y, and Z. So I just think that Buffalo Bills will make a more conscious effort to run the ball against the New England Patriots to try to keep their defense off of the field. Obviously, some guys are still banged up. We still don't know. I don't know the status of Micah Hyde. Do you guys know the status of Hyde? What's going on? I'm not really sure. He's still in concussion.
He's got a
protocol.
concussion.
He can get
And
out
so
of
did he get the
protocol
concussion
by the
during
end of the week.
practice?
He can get out of protocol by the end of the week? Okay.
He can be, yes. That's as soon as possible, might I mind you. It depends on the severity of his injury. And, who knows? I mean, a lot of people assume that Micah Hyde got ejected from that game last week, when in reality he was just thrown in protocol immediately. And I'm not sure if it was something he said to the coaches or they just pulled him off because of the way the hit looked. But the fact that he's in protocol, you aren't going to find out until 4 p.m. Saturday whether or not he's going to play.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. They could have asked him, obviously I don't know what the standard concussion protocol is, but Clayton, we know from many times get hit in the head playing football ourselves. We know the quick concussion test they used to give us. I can't even say concussion. That's how many I've had. So that's, hey, are you okay? Huh? Okay, go back in there. That's our concussion protocol when you're in high school. So
I'm good, dude.
So I'm good, yeah. So Stefan comes in the chat. He says, do you mean Josh Allen will outrush the Patriots? See, that's the push. So the fact that the Buffalo Bills have Josh Allen and New England has Cam Newton is going to be very interesting to watch out for. That's going to be a part of my second bold prediction. But it's funny so a couple of people in the chat were putting in the scores. They were putting one-score games. I mean, you're talking about a 5-2 Buffalo Bills versus a 2-4 New England Patriots. Obviously, the allure and the image of the Patriots and the mystique still carries some weight with Buffalo Bills fans after being run over for 20 years in this division. I understand that.
Oh yeah.
And I expect it to be
there's nothing more. There's nothing more than I would love for it to be like a 52-0 blowout. Like I feel like every Bills fan wants to fucking see that, but it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen at this point. And it's funny too because so we were just talking about the take that Sean McDermott has seen Cam Newton at practice all the time. Same with Brandon Beane. So I was interested and was just like, you know what? How was Sean McDermott's last appearance against Cam Newton? And that was the 3-9 game against the Carolina Panthers in 2017.
Stop.
And let's put it this way. Cam Newton, no touchdowns, no interceptions, went 20 for 32 and rushed for 27 yards, 5.4 on average. Now, granted, the 2017 defense was nowhere near as good as the 2018 or 2019 defense by itself. But, I mean, those are the stats of what Cam Newton was able to do against the Sean McDermott defense thus far. So something to look for.
That is very interesting. I did not think to go back to the 9-3 Tyrod game in 2017. That's
don't call that a Tyrod game. Call that a Zay Jones game. Stop it.
He should have caught that shit. Like I was at that game, and I was broken, dude. I was broken after that shit.
Speaking of Zay, he's still on the Buffalo Bills for dead money. By the way, just letting you know.
Oh,
shocker!
That.
If you guys go to Spot Track, you look at the dead money for the Buffalo Bills. There are some names on there where you're like, still.
Mario Williams on there, I bet.
Mario Williams, the guy who had it built into his contract to account for the New York State tax when he played in Buffalo. Like that was one of the key things that they were able to sign him is because they built in the tax that he was going to pay on his money into the contract. That's why it was so much.
You know what the weird thing is coming out of this Jets game really is we talk about how the rushing attack needs to have a rebound, and I'm a huge proponent of that. I think that the Bills need to run the ball more. I think they need to be more creative in the running game. I think you need to really do what you can with two talented running backs. It's not like they only have one. It's not like they're running by committee. It's not like they have four different guys that do four different things, and they have a fleet back there that is multidimensional. You have two solid running backs that are both very good at both receiving out of the backfield and rushing between the tackles and off the edge. You can utilize both these backs in multiple ways. And my point is, we're coming off of the best rushing performance by this team this season. That's crazy, isn't it? Because you wouldn't have assumed it after this game, given the fact that the Bills were having troubles rushing the ball. But the factor that a lot of that statistically, yes, it was the highest rushing total for the Bills coming out of a football game this year. It was 126 total rushing yards. But how much did Josh Allen account for? Half of it, right? And part of that is on scrambles. Part of it is on design runs. But the fact still remains, even though you come out of a game with your highest rushing total in the season, you still need to get the players that are, meant to run the ball more involved in a more efficient way.
In Believers Talk, Joe comes in the chat. He said, Bills only beating the Jets by 8 is good. Don't come into this game pounding your chest. Have a lot to prove. Do you think if they would have blew out, I'll ask Dan then Clayton, do you think if they would have blew out the Jets, they would come into this game overhyped?
No.
You think they still would have tried to still get back to playing fundamental football?
And so the game on Sunday, like this past Sunday, was a lose. Because say that we were to blow them out, like, bro, it's the Jets. Calm down. Say that what did happen was a close game, but like, oh, the Buffalo Bills are who we thought they were. And then if we lost to the New York Jets, then we would have been the laughing stock of the NFL. So the Bills knew that going into it, and I think that game on Sunday, that they just wanted to scrape by and just get a W by any means necessary. I don't think that they would have been too cocky going into and expecting New England to roll in right to Buffalo. So, I mean, I'm not convinced. No.
What do you think, Clayton?
I don't believe when we're talking about professional teams and arrogance in a locker room, I can't associate that with the locker room the Bills have. I can't. Regardless if you blow out the Jets, you blow out the Chiefs, you blow out it doesn't matter who you blow out. I really don't envision that sort of mentality throughout the locker room entering the kind of energy that they have in there. I understand how cliche or whatever you might want to call it sounds, but that's honestly truly how I feel. I don't think this team gets too much in one direction. I don't feel like they get overly negative and they don't get overly positive. They try and stay on the straight and narrow and stay not on one side of the fence, but right directly on top of the fence and try and, take each game for what it's worth. And, they don't get too high and they don't get too low.
Yeah, and you know what, though? When you want to talk about New England, Brady didn't really enjoy very good games against Buffalo. I mean, they got the win, true, but he wasn't really the deciding factor in a lot of those games. I mean, he was basically a game manager. McDermott Frazier turned him into a game manager for those games. And it was a lot of times I saw the Buffalo Bills, a drive would stall. They shoot themselves in the foot with a penalty on a first down and stuff like that. So I used to see that. And it's pretty interesting, too. Midnight Hood Strikes Back. Probably one of the greatest YouTube handles ever. He said the Bills need to get a lead before halftime. They're 31-1 leading after the half under McDermott. I don't know if that is pretty accurate, but teams that lead at the half against New England, or against any team for that matter, they tend to perform a little bit better. But you start talking about what does New England like to do? They usually like to kick off, and they like getting the ball at the half. So they like having a long sustained drive at the end of the half, and they like having a long drive to start the second half. That's usually the pattern that Belichick has been going through. I mean, during the Brady years, and it hasn't really been used to perfection this year. So it's interesting to see how that'll play out. Do you see? I'll post something, and I'll post it to the chat. Type a 1 for yes, 2 for no in the chat. I'm going to start with Clayton. I'll go to Dan. Does Josh Allen throw for 300 against the New England Patriots?
Do I hope that's what it comes to? Honestly, if Allen's having an efficient day, if Allen looks comfortable back there, if he somehow finds a switch, because even with a solid performance last week, he wasn't the same quarterback we watched the first 4 weeks of the season. I don't put that on the fact that they didn't score a touchdown. I put that more on the fact of watching his composure, watching his poise in the pocket, how he was going through his progressions and whatnot. And the one thing I will say is he looked far more comfortable scrambling out of the pocket, which is which is encouraging, given the fact that he's a little more hesitant these past couple weeks with after his injury. But I don't want him to throw for 300. I really don't want I don't want him to have to throw the ball for 300 yards to beat the Patriots, because Bills fans might hate on Stephon Gilmore, say what they will about Stephon Gilmore, but Stephon Gilmore versus Stephon Diggs, I think it's going to be a dogfight. Unless Stephon Gilmore is waving the white flag and he's going to have attitude issues because he's in trading rumblings, unless that's the case, I think this is going to be a dogfight, and it's going to be really interesting what you can do with the matchups John Brown and Cole Beasley have. Do I think you're going to have your opportunities in the passing attack? Absolutely. Do I think it's the best method to try and win this game on the offensive side of the ball for the team as a whole, so including the defense and the amount of rest the defense gets in preparation for facing a run-first offense on that side of the ball? I don't think trying to stretch this team out and trying to throw the ball over the field like they have the first 7 games of the season is really the best plan of attack going into this game.
What do you think, Dan?
Yeah. So, I mean, I am in the camp that I do not believe that he throws for 300 yards. However, I do think that he does have a very, very efficient game. I do think the Bills are going to sort of resort back to the run. I really think that they're going to be able to unleash that. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Zach Moss, believe it or not. I think Zach Moss is going to have a better game than Devin Singletary this game by itself. I do see Josh Allen being wildly efficient, but for throwing over 300 yards, I do not see it happening, but I'm completely fine with that. Last year, when Josh Allen did not eclipse 300 yards the entire season, I was completely fine with that, because I think throwing for over 300 yards means absolutely fucking nothing. Perfect example, last week against the Jets. We barely won. It was 18-10, and our quarterback threw for 300 yards. It means absolutely nothing. What I want Josh Allen to do is play mistake-free football, make the right decisions, go through his progressions, find Beasley, find John Brown, because I have a feeling between Gilmore and Stephon Diggs, Diggs is not going to be open as often as he has been throughout this season. I mean, like it or not, with Gilmore, he's the best cornerback in the NFL. It's just how it is. So, I mean, that's what I'm expecting from Allen. I do not foresee him throwing for over 300. But, I mean, trust me, I would be absolutely fucking fine with it, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, you know what? The perfect example I always like bringing up is Dak Prescott last year. I mean, the guy almost threw for 5,000 yards, and the Dallas Cowboys were 8-8. They were throwing. He was throwing for all those yards because they had to. Like, they were down. They had to throw to try to get back in the game. It's the most efficient way to do it. And you got Ezekiel Elliott. So everyone knows what the plan was for trying to beat the Dallas Cowboys was you got to try to take Zeke out of the game. But he's such a big factor in the pass game anyway. It's kind of hard to take him out completely. With the wind and the rain, and a lot of people coming in the chat, the wind and the rain, they don't think Allen's going to be throwing for 300. But I think one thing for sure is that you could take away is that how minuscule that stat is that everyone talked about last year of Allen not throwing for 300. You know what I mean? Like, can we finally? I mean, it was finally put to bed earlier this season, where he finally threw for 300. That's not a marking of a great winning quarterback. I mean, Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers for years have thrown for 4,000 yards a season. What have they won? What?
Nothing.
They've had 300 and 400 yard games and they've lost. Like, so. I just posed the question because I was very interested to see, because I think there's the camp of #Nation and Bills Mafia, and a lot of people are like, okay, this is a passing offense now. They're only going to run a few times a game. Allen's going to be heavy part of the run where he's going to split carries. You got two third round backs on your team. So if you don't have a first round back like a Kamara or McCaffrey or Elliott or any of those types of guys, why would you commit to the run so heavily? And I could kind of see that, but oh my God, Stephon. Guys, you guys got the chat pulled up on yours? Oh my God. You gotta look at Stephon's comment. It's ridiculous. It's awesome. I'm not saying it, but it's hilarious. The guy could.
Can Dan say it?
No, we both could say it. I mean,
and so have Dan say it.
He said Rivers won in the bedroom. So
he did.
He did. The guy could field his own
and
baseball
so it's
team.
funny. And so it's funny. And so like you're like, let's just have Dan say it. Like, fuck. You know what I mean? Exactly, because I'm uncancelable, baby. I'm uncancelable. It's clear.
You
And so if I
cannot get
haven't
rid
been
of me.
canceled already, I'm uncancelable. It's just clear.
This is true. This is true. All right. So we're getting to that point in time where I want to give one bold prediction for you gentlemen, and I want to have a score prediction. So I will start with Mr. Mitchell. I will go to Clayton. I will clean up because Clayton always likes to take mine, so I'll let him go second. And I'll back clean up tonight. Put your bold prediction in the chat as well as this, ladies and gentlemen. The hashtag heroes. If you're a hashtag hero, the Punt Foundation thanks you. Hashtag Sports thanks you. But if you're not a hashtag hero, you want to go down and be one of the channel members. We're donating 100% of your membership to the Punt Foundation until the end of the year, not end of the season, end of the year. So make sure you get on that and donate to a great charity. So Dan, bold prediction and score. What do you got?
Got it. And so, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn right here, but last week I made a bold prediction saying that there was going to be an interception by a defensive lineman. And what the fuck do you know? It happened. Jerry Hughes got his first career interception. Beautiful. So, I mean, I feel like I'm on a hot streak right now. Okay, listen. This bold prediction is going to work hand in hand with my biggest concern of the Buffalo Bills, right? My biggest concern, and we didn't talk about this, is our undisciplined football we have been playing. Last Sunday, we had 11 penalties for over 100 yards, handing the Jets 3 first downs off of that game alone. My bold prediction is that the Buffalo Bills are only going to commit one penalty the entire game. One. That's it. One penalty. Bold prediction. We are going to see some disciplined ass football, my guy. And then I think score prediction. I'm gonna stick with what I said, 21-20 Bills.
Nice. It's funny. We got the chat coming in. Bill scored 9 on 5 field goal attempts. Pat scores 7 on two safeties and a field goal. Big Spence. I predicted a pick 6 by Dane Jackson. Spin 0481 says I was half right. Spin says, is Lee Smith active? If that's your question before your bold prediction, I don't know what it is. But Norman Eck comes in and says, Dan, I like that. I hope you're right. So going over to Clayton, bold prediction and a score.
See, I'm not good at these bold predictions. My confidence has dwindled. It's just, if I had to go, I'll say Tremaine Edmonds gets an interception this week. I'll say that's what's going to happen. I think Cam Newton's going to take a chance. I think he's going to take a chance over the middle. He is due. You don't get that close that many times to have one not go your way fairly soon. It's just going to happen this week. And for a score prediction, I'm going to say the same thing I said last night on the Overtime podcast. I'm taking the Bills 23-10.
23-10. A convincing. PJT comes in and says Ed Oliver revenge game. We got Bass going 100% kicking. Bills will get 4 turnovers and return 1 from the TV, 1 for a TD. That's from Men in the Kitchen. Bass throws a touchdown from Trek Reviewer. That is
wow. That is bold.
Truth to hearts. My bold prediction is Lee Smith will get suspended for substance abuse, and he labels it Viagra. Wow. Wow. At least he'll be up for the game. All right. So next coming, I'm going to say that the Buffalo. I said the bold prediction a little bit earlier. If you happen to miss it, rewind. No, I'm just kidding. The bold prediction for me is I think the Buffalo Bills will outrush the New England Patriots in this game. I just think that it's just going to come down to Josh Allen getting free, Motor Singletary, and Moss just absolutely pounding the tackles inside. Mongo is back. I know that's not going to be a huge thing. Because, like I said, it's only one player on that line, but I just think it's going to be motivation for that offensive line to get things together. When Mongo comes back, I think there's going to be the communication is going to be a little bit better. You happen to have a little bit of a skip because we have to remember last year when Morse was out, Feliciano was the center. He was making all the line calls. Now you're going to put Mongo either on either side. That communication on that side is going to be a little bit better. Maybe kicking out to Williams or kicking out to Dawkins. I can't remember which side they're going to put him on. Probably more than likely at right guard. I'm not sure yet, but we'll have to see. But Mongo coming back, if he does start, he'll increase the communication on that line, and the blocking will be a little bit better. And I think the Buffalo Bills, I've echoed it. A couple people said it in the chat. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'm going to go with a 17-10 victory for the Buffalo Bills in a very sloppy game. I'm not saying sloppy as far as penalties, but I'm just saying it's going to be sloppy as far as it's going to be all over the place, this game. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation, go follow Dan Mitchell and the Don Mafia Report. Go follow Clayton over at the Cold Front Report. They're on every social media site available, including Pinterest. Make sure you go give these guys a follow. They're amazing. They grind it out every day to give you guys your Buffalo Bills content. For Hashtag Nation, Dan Mitchell, Clayton Garrett, I'm Mario Granata. This is Hashtag Sports. You've been here for the Roundtable. We'll see you guys next week.